felt empty. I hadn't found my physical and mental limits. It just came into my head, 50, 50, 50.
50 Ironmans, 50 states in just 50 days.
Meets the Iron Cowboy, and he's very tired, but you are fighting through it. They say he once wore a cowboy hat in the crowd of athletes, and the name stuck.
It seemed pretty much impossible.
Comical, yeah, terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
He said, will you coach me? And I said, I don't think you can do it.
This guy thinks he has a chance. It's crazy.
The first few days were really chaotic.
They had forgotten my shoes.
So everyone's wearing like these smaller shoes.
Hey, I'll wear that hat.
Last reps in, you're good.
Past 48 hours. I'm doing 2 Ironmans and 5 hours of sleep.
I'm like, how are you doing? He's like, God. So I don't really think he's good.
10.
Let's go from 3. Shit.
3. You guys look Boston Fog off.
James says he can't feel his legs. He'd sit down, he was asleep. It was so crazy to watch.
1, 2, snoring. You do 1, 2, 3 snoring on a bike, you crash.
And all of a sudden, he's like, I can't do this.
I stopped chasing society's dream. And I went after my dreams.
This is what we as human beings can actually do.
Whatever trial you're having, it's hard.
There's a finish line to all of this. You've just got to get through today.
It's awesome. Fight.
Come, we'll be there with your bike waiting for you like we always are.
Always. Don't leave me waiting too long.
And we go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night.
How's everybody doing? Yes. Oh man, I am so excited to be here. It's real people. Huh? How about that? Ah, man, I'm tired of being behind a computer screen, and this is amazing. I love the energy and the interaction with people. Thank you so much for having me today. Man, my goal today is just to share a journey with you, a story. And I want you guys to be open-minded with what I'm about to share with you. And my name is James. I'm the Iron Cowboy, and she must really like the name James. I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Does anybody know what Calgary's world famous for? The rodeo, the Calgary Stampede. It is the largest rodeo in the entire world, and I got to go as I was growing up every single year. It was unbelievable. And I was sitting there contemplating life, and I was listening to the radio, and they announced this contest. They say, we want to find out who can ride the giant Ferris wheel for the entire duration of the 10-day stampede. And I thought to myself, man, I bet I can do that. Their objective was complete boredom. You couldn't do anything on the ride, and I was like, yes, I know I can do that. I don't have to do anything, I just have to sit there? And they want to give me $10,000 to the winner? And so I called the radio station, I got my spot on the ride, and for the next 10 days, I rode the Ferris wheel. And while I was sitting on the Ferris wheel, I got fired from my job. And so I had this new motivation to stay on this ride. I needed the money. And I won, and I got the money, and then I literally hitchhiked a ride from Calgary to where I live now in Utah. And when I got to Utah, yes. I love it there. And when I got to Utah, I met my beautiful bride. Her name is Sunny Jo. We are about to celebrate 21 years of marriage. And we've got 5 kids. I currently have 4 teenage girls in my house. And I know, everyone says, hey, why do you run so much? I'm like, dude, I'll tell you why I run so much. I got these 4 teenage girls. My house is crazy. So we've been on a journey as a family. And when you do something as hard as we've done, you establish yourself as one of the world's toughest human beings on the planet, mentally and physically. And when you do that, you get phone calls from around the world, and they're like, hey, we want you to come do our hardest event. We want you to come suffer with us. And I'm like, and it sucks for me. Like, they play this game, like they want to try to break me physically and mentally. And I'm like, that's awesome for you. It sucks for me. And I was sitting there with my family, contemplating, like, what am I going to do next? And I got this phone call, and it was from Africa. And they said, hey, we want you to come climb our mountain. And I said, whoa, I don't climb mountains. And they said, no, this is Mount Kilimanjaro. This is 20,000 feet in the air. We don't want you to just come climb it. We want you to ride your bike from the bottom to the top. And I said, that's the dumbest thing I have ever heard of in my life. And then I found myself on my bike in Africa trying to climb the stupid mountain. And I'll tell you, I instantly regretted the decision. There's only one way up, and it's straight up. And the higher you get, the less oxygen there is. And so I'm suffering. My legs are killing me. And I make it to base camp, 12,500 feet. Now, at base camp, I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I go back down? I don't want to go up. And I came across this group of veterans, and they had just summited the mountain. They were on their way back down. They were super excited. I remember talking with them, and in that moment, I looked down, and then I realized she only had one leg. And moments earlier, I was complaining about how bad my legs hurt. You can imagine how that makes you feel. Realizing that in life, we have no idea when something's going to be taken away from us. And so I woke up the next morning, a new sense of urgency, a willingness to be present on that journey, on that climb, despite the struggle. And we ended up being the first group to summit Mount Kilimanjaro on mountain bikes, 20,000 feet in the air. Thank you. And it was unbelievable. We timed it perfect. I'm standing at the top of the mountain. I can see the sun. I could see the moon. I could see the curvature of the earth. And it was unbelievable. And in that moment, I was so filled with gratitude for where I was standing. Nothing else mattered. There's only one time that's important. And the time is right now. It's the only time when you have any power. We learn from the past. The future is not guaranteed. Don't miss out on the very moment you are on your journey. Now, yesterday we celebrated an unbelievable day. And I want to thank all of the veterans who served. Now, I had an opportunity, a very unique opportunity, to take a flight in an F-16 jet. Has anybody ever had this opportunity? Yeah, the two people that rose their hands have probably flown an F-16 jet. That's amazing. Thank you. It's an unbelievable experience, isn't it? Well, for those of you that haven't had this experience, I want to show you what it maybe looks and feels like to take off in an F-16 jet.
300 knots, we're at 60 feet. For 10,000.
221, turn right heading at 040.
All right, rolling out.
Yeah, I'm upside down right there. I don't even know it.
01, copies left on course.
What I learned super early on in this experience is, one, that nothing great is ever accomplished on our own. Two, we all start at the beginning of our journey. None of us are the experts when we first start. And three, their only objective was to make me throw up. And this was a 48-minute ride. They tried to do everything they could. I made it to 45 minutes. I was like, I am the toughest male on the planet. You cannot break me. And at minute 46, I threw up everything I had. It was over. It was an amazing experience, one that I will cherish forever. And again, thank you to all those who have served our unbelievable country. We are all on our very own unique journey. We all have to go through this life and learn different lessons, and I chose to learn many of my lessons through the sport of triathlon. That's just the mode that I chose. Now, an Ironman is a distance of triathlon. It's a brand. It's a 2.4-mile swim. It's a 112-mile bike ride. And our day's event finishes with a full 26.2-mile marathon run. It's 140.6 miles. It is one of the hardest single-day challenges in the world. Now, my journey didn't start out with Ironman. This is a picture of me in my very first triathlon. I'm gripping to the side of the pool. I'm gasping for air. I did not know how to swim. Nobody would have looked at this person and said, he is going to go on and set endurance sports history. Everybody's journey starts somewhere. If you're at the beginning of your journey right now, that means you have potential. That means you only have one place to go, and it's up. Somebody in this room right now, they're like, man, I don't deserve to be the top distributor in this company. Yes, you do. And it's okay to be where you are right now at the beginning of your journey. We all have to start somewhere. Now, I didn't realize that in my very first open water swim with 2,000 athletes that I was going to get kicked in the face. I was going to get punched. I was going to get pulled in the water. I was going to get swam over top of. It was absolute chaos. And in that moment, you have to learn to relax, control yourself. And you guys are going out there in the world. You're all excited about this new business. You have to learn to relax and control yourself. You just heard the beautiful woman in front of me say she went out and she tried to tell everybody everything to say. Dude, just relax. Compose yourself. Once you get out of the water and you learn to relax, you get to jump on your bike. For me, it's my favorite part of the journey. It's 112 miles. It'll take me about 5 or 6 hours to complete that part of the race. It's pretty tough for some people to just sit down and watch Netflix for 5 or 6 hours. Right? Like, that's a commitment. You're going all in that moment, going, I'm watching Breaking Bad all the way to the finish. Imagine doing it on a bike with just your thoughts inside your head. You have to be okay with who you are, because that bully in our lives, in your head, he exists, he's going to come out, and he's ruthless, and he will not stop until you give up. Every single race, about mile 80, that bully comes out, starts to have a conversation with me. Hey, you're tired. You're not good enough. You haven't done the preparation. You don't deserve to be here. And every single time, I win that battle. Sometimes I wish I didn't, because now I have a full marathon to run. But I get out there and I run the marathon. And less than 1% of the population has ever done a marathon. That number drops significantly when you put the swim and the bike in front of it. And I know every single person sitting here is thinking, why would you do that on purpose? In your mind, you're thinking, this is the result. I'm not striving for this. But this is not the moment. This isn't why we show up every single day. This isn't why we sacrifice. It's that moment. Right there. In that moment, everything becomes worth it. If you guys continue to show up in your journey, you're not working so hard to be exhausted. You're working so hard for this moment. I wanted to have that experience as often as I could. And so I set out on a very unique journey to try to break the Guinness World Record for the most full-distance triathlons ever done. It was a journey that took me through 11 countries, and we put 30 Ironmans on the calendar. Oh, well, thank you. If that impressed you, just wait. This gets better. It was early in the journey. I show up in Texas, and the conditions were perfect. And so I get to Texas. I'm all excited. I'm in the middle of this world record. I jump in the water, and I swim a perfect 2.4 miles. I'm not winning the race, but I'm close to the leaders. Now, when I get out of the water, my buddy Tyrell is there. And Tyrell, he was super excited. Tyrell comes rushing up to me, and he says, James, the leaders of the race, they just left. Grab your bike. You could catch them. You could win today. And I laughed. I'm like, hey, dude, no, I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to be patient. I've got the big picture in mind. I'm just trying to contact my 3 people a day, right? I can be taught. I can learn, right? I'm just contacting my 3 people. But he said it. He says, just imagine how much your kids will love you if you win today. I said, what? My kids don't care, trust me. They're super excited if I come home with a Snickers bar, right? But he said it, he said, just imagine, when in our adult lives did we stop imagining? Did we stop trying to strive for greatness and do something bigger? So I got all fired up. I'm like, dude, I can win today. And I grabbed my bike and I started to bike and I passed an athlete. I passed another one. And before you knew it, I'd taken over the lead of this race. And when you take over the lead of the race, they give you this motorcycle escort, and the motorcycle's there, and the American flag is hanging off the back. And I'm like, dude, I can pass this motorcycle too. And I never got him. He's too powerful. But I was trying everything I could, and I got to mile 100 of 112. And at mile 100, I got the most intense cramp you've ever experienced. And it grabbed, and it locked, and I couldn't turn the pedals over. And in that moment, guess who showed up? That bully in my voice, in my head, that bully. And in that moment, I told you weren't good enough. I told you weren't strong enough. I told you didn't make the right sacrifices. And I started to listen to the bully. And then all of a sudden, I heard this really small voice. And that small voice said, hey, James, you've got one good leg. It's only 12 more miles to bike, then it's just a marathon. Let's go. And I'm like, that guy's a genius. Like, I do have a good leg. And so I got back on my bike and I figured out how to turn the pedals over one stroke at a time. I made it through those last 12 miles and I got to the start of that marathon. And Tyrell was there. Tyrell was so excited. He's like, dude, you're winning the race. And I said, pump your brakes, Tyrell. I'm in a little bit of trouble. I'm going to need medical help, but I'm going to try. And I grabbed my cowboy hat and I started to run. Now, I wear a cowboy hat so that my kids can see me. This is the worst spectator sport on the planet, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to wear my cowboy hat so my kids can see me. We'll be excited. And let's be honest, you guys are all adults, right? I look way better with a cowboy hat than without it, right? Let's hear it, ladies. Yeah. So I grab my cowboy hat and I'm out there doing my thing, and things go from good to bad to worse. I fight for 17 miles. At mile 17, every single muscle in my body contracts at the same time. Now, when that happens, it takes you off your feet. It's the most intense pain I've ever experienced. I'm laying on the ground. Tyrell comes rushing over to me and he says, James, don't worry about a thing. I've got great news for you. And I'm thinking to myself, good, you've called medical because I'm dying. And he goes, no, I'm sorry, I don't have medical. I've got your wife, Sunny. She's on the phone. She wants to talk to you. Dude, I made one of the biggest mistakes in my entire marriage. I looked at Tyrell. I said, hey, tell her no thank you. I don't want to talk to her. She's going to tell me to get up. I can't. He comes back. He's still on the phone. He's like, James, I am so sorry. It's not medical. It's not your wife. It's your daughter. At this point in my journey, my oldest daughter, Lucy, is 9 years old. I took the phone, right? Imagine the sweetest, most innocent voice. Dad, I'll do my best. Dad, you said you were going to do 30 Ironmans this year. And I was like, dang it, I said that. I shouldn't have. In my head, I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. She goes, Dad, you said you were going to be in the Guinness Book of World Records. Is there any way? Can you get up? Can you walk? Dad, can you finish? I said, sweetheart, I can't. And in that moment, my heart broke. How many of you have kids? How many of you just want to set the best example you know how for your kids? Yeah. And in that moment, I'm failing. I'm setting the worst example I know how. So the sweet voice comes back on, Dad, can you crawl? Again, through the tears, I say, sweetheart, I can't. And super positive without skipping a beat. Okay, Dad, can you cartwheel? What? I learned the most valuable lesson I have ever learned in that moment. She couldn't see the option to quit. It wasn't on the table. When, as adults on our journey, did we become okay with quitting, for stop showing up? Why is that okay? Why is mediocrity the current standard of excellence? She could not see the option to quit. It wasn't on the table. I told her I loved her. I said, thank you. I stood back up. I put my shoes back on, and I figured out how to take one more step at a time. And then I got to where I was 100 meters from the finish line. I was right there. We'd been fighting for hours. We went from first place to last place. And I cartwheeled over the finish line. And from that moment on, I was so filled with belief and conviction in the journey that I was on that I went on to win 2 events, placed second 5 times, smashing the Guinness World Record, doing 30 irons in 1 year, all due to the belief and conviction of a 9-year-old girl. Now I want to introduce you guys to one of my best friends. This is Dayton. And Dayton was born with a condition that's called cerebral palsy. He's just trapped inside of his body. Trust me, he has the same dreams, desires, passions that you have. And I found out through social media, Dayton loves to do triathlons. Guess why? He loves to feel the wind in his face. It makes him feel alive. I contacted his mother. I said, hey, do you think Dayton and I, could we do an Ironman together? Can we help each other? And she was like, absolutely. So we figured it out. I got to meet Dayton for the very first time, Lake Havasu, Arizona, on race 27 of 30. He was going to be part of the world record. I was super excited, but I was nervous, right? I've never done this before. And his dad comes up to us, and he shows us this $20 raft. And I'm like, that's from Walmart. It's got duct tape on the side. It's got this rope on it. Moments before the gun goes off, his dad comes up to us, puts his arm around me. He's like, guys, I am so proud of you. And then he looks me right in the eyes, and he goes, James, Dayton might have a seizure. If he has a seizure, don't quit. And I said, what? He goes, Dayton might have a seizure. There's nothing you can do about it. Just keep swimming. And then the gun goes off. The gun goes off, and I was like, holy crap, what are we doing? And so I grabbed the rope, I put it around my waist, I jump in the water, and I start swimming. And now I'm terrified. And so I'm swimming, and I'm looking back. I'm like, is Dayton okay? What's he doing back there? And every time I look back, his eyes are closed, and then it hit me. He's sleeping. He's just taking a nap. He's taking a nap on me. I'm like, I need to just focus on what I'm doing right now. I can't control what's happening back there. It's called catastrophism. How many of you are so worried about what's happening in the future, you're giving it all of your power, all of your energy, and it hasn't even happened yet? That is a destructive way to live and go through life. Remember I talked about being present? I needed to be present right there, right now. I needed to concentrate on just my swim stroke. And guess what? We came out into the middle of the pack. It was an amazing swim, and his dad greeted us with this custom cart. I heard the word custom cart. I'm thinking, okay, cool, state-of-the-art material, carbon fiber, maybe an X49. No, this thing was U.S. grade steel, 185 pounds. And so I'm like, okay, here we go. You want to challenge me? Let's go, bring it on. So I start biking. We get this thing up to speed. I'm going 25 miles an hour. I look back. Dayton's got the biggest smile on his face. And I said, yes, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now doing this. And then Dayton's cart broke. Mile 30, where it's connected to my bike, it broke. Dayton's cart starts to shake. I'm going to go from 25 miles an hour to 4 miles an hour. I'm like, I don't have time to finish. I'm giving it everything I have. All of a sudden, my wife realizes we're taking too long. She comes out on her bike and starts to bike with us. She started to tell us jokes. She tried to sing to us. Tried to take our minds off what was happening. I didn't have the heart, but I'm like, sweetheart, this is not helping. You're a terrible singer. But out of the blue, she reaches out her hand. She reaches out her hand as she's riding. She puts it on the back of Dayton's cart. As soon as she touched the cart, it took away that shake. My speed doubled. My cadence picked up. I looked back. All of a sudden, Dayton was sitting up in his cart. We had hope. I said, Sonny, how long can you leave your hand there? She goes, as long as you need. And I said, great, I think I need you for the next 9 hours. And she said, whatever it takes, I'm here. And so together, Sonny and I, we pushed and pulled Dayton up and down the hills of Lake Havasu. 10K to go. The sun sets, the race director comes out, he says, boys, It's no longer safe to continue. You've been out here too long. My heart broke. I just wanted to help him across the finish line. And in that moment, a police officer came up. He looked me right in the face and he said, "Boys, I hear you want to become Ironman today." I said, "Yes, sir." He turned on all of his lights and he said, "Follow me. I'll get you in. I'll give you your chance to run that marathon." And I want to share with you guys a video of the day that Dayton and I got to spend together.
There are many limits in life, but the only limit to achieving greatness is telling yourself no. On the surface, I was pulling Dayton, but in reality, he was pulling me. He was the mind, I was the body, and together we were a machine. It became the hardest ride of my life. Every pedal stroke was like climbing a mountain. I kept doing the math over and over in my head. We weren't going to make it. But I kept telling myself, Dayton can't ride a bike. And I get to ride my bike today. I get to ride my bike. I looked back and I realized he wasn't going to cross the finish line unless I took that next step. So we simply push the limits hard. I kept telling myself, Dayton can't run, and I get to run tonight. Greatness isn't measured in hours, minutes, or seconds. It's measured in your ability to kick your limits to the curb and achieve what is possible.
Dayton can't ride a bike, and I get to ride my bike today. Dayton can't run, and I get to run tonight. You guys get to be here today. You guys get to represent this company. You guys get to share this message with everybody you know. You get to wake up and enjoy life. Nothing great is ever accomplished on our own. Dayton and I, we needed each other. We needed Sonny to come out and reach out her hand. We needed that police officer to light our way. That was Dayton's mother who ran every step of the marathon with us. And it was my two oldest girls that ran us into the finish line. And it took every single one of us to put that medal around Dayton's neck. And it is absolutely the proudest moment of my entire career to have that day and share that day with Dayton. When you're in the middle of your journey, when you're in the middle of trying to climb your Everest, it seems impossible. It seems like there's no way you'll ever make it to the top. And I promise you, if you continue to fight, if you continue to show up in your journey, eventually you're going to reach the top. And in that moment, You're a different person because you've chosen to show up and be consistent in your journey. And when that happens, more becomes possible because you've learned, you've grown, you now have experience. And after the world record, I knew my journey wasn't over. I knew I was capable of more. And I came up with the 50, 50, 50. That's a full Ironman a day for 50 consecutive days, one in every U.S. state. Now, when I set out on this journey, they said it's impossible, it cannot be done. Mentally, you will break. Physically, you will break. Emotionally, you will break. Spiritually, you will break. And so I sat down with some experts. I sat down with some doctors. I said, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you think? And they said, well, you're going to die. And so I stopped talking to doctors. I started to surround myself with people that believed in what I was doing, that had confidence, that had the same mindset that I did, that wanted to go on a journey, that wanted to find out what is humanly possible. And so we set out on a journey. I got my little family, and we jumped, and we started in Hawaii, and we went to Alaska. And then the team with the motorhome met us, and we all got in the motorhome, and we traveled, and we hit every single U.S. state, and we did an Ironman a day. We averaged less than 4 hours of sleep a night. We had to consume 10,000 plus calories a day. I promise you, every single day, we had an amazing, unbelievable excuse to quit. Persistence and resilience only come from having been given the chance to work through difficult problems. If you are currently facing adversity, if you are currently struggling in your life, congratulations, that's exactly where you need to be because you have lessons to learn in order to grow, to adapt, to evolve, to become the best version of who you are. Do not look at adversity as a negative thing. Look at it as an absolute opportunity to grow. Now, as we were moving across the country, media showed up. They were fascinated with how we were still moving and what we were doing, what the mind and the body could accomplish. I got pretty good at doing interviews. I remember doing this interview in Florida. I crushed it. I was walking back to the motorhome to prep for the day, and my beautiful wife, Sunny, she came up to me and she said, hey, James, I need you to sound more intelligent on camera. And I said, I don't understand what you mean. I'm doing an amazing job. And so I remembered this moment, and I went and I found the interview. I want to share it with you guys today because I want to know if you're on Sunny's side or if you're on my side, okay?
Good morning, Christina. We're with James Lawrence. He is the Iron Cowboy. He's from Utah, and he's on Pensacola Beach to do one of his 50 Ironmans. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And this is your 21st one, right?
Yeah, 21st to 50.
And how has it been so far?
I'm tired.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job, and it's all for a great cause, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's Sunny Joe. She's pissed. Obviously, I didn't do a very good job. I show this video only because, one, it is pretty funny, but two, it showcases how the mind works. Like, I started to be filled with anxiety and depression, like I was really struggling. I can't put into words the compounding effect of an Ironman from 21 to 50. It's staggering. Now, we filmed an entire documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. You can go enjoy that, but I want to share with you a clip. Because in this clip, it showcases that conversation that we all have with the bully in our mind. We are one decision away, at all times, one decision away from a different outcome.
James has never been a morning person, and so then you put him in a motorhome or in a van with really crappy sleep, only grant him 4 hours, coming off an Ironman every day, and then you have to be the person to wake him up. It was traumatizing.
You didn't have a pillow? No. Constructive criticism. That's what we're taking as. Constructive criticism. I shall remember tonight.
James has been incredibly depressed. I could tell that he was desperate in reaching out for me to tell him, you can do this, you're gonna be okay. There's a finish line to all of this. You've just gotta get through today. He wasn't uncomfortable, it wasn't just difficult, he was suffering.
food?
Is there food? Yeah. In that moment, I'm telling myself again, James, you're not good enough. You haven't made enough sacrifices. Why are you doing this? Why are you putting your family through this? You're damaging your body. What are the long-term effects? What are you doing? I'd eat 10,000 calories a day. I snapped out of the thought because I needed some food. It's your reaction to adversity, not adversity itself, that determines how your life story will develop. We all get to choose how we react to the situation around us. We need to remove excuses and entitlement from our journey. We need to be filled with hope and positivity and realize that we are in control. We get to choose our future. I don't care what your past looks like. Your past does not define who you are. What defines you is the action that you take now going forward. And you are in control. To grow, to adapt, to evolve, we need to become uncomfortable intentionally. Only then will you meet the best version of yourself and truly find out what you can accomplish. When was the last time you intentionally became uncomfortable? And what I mean by that is, when was the last time you isolated your fears, you broke them down and then attacked them in order to overcome them? Instead of running away from your fears, you want to take those things head on. I woke up scared every single day. I had no idea what the outcome was going to be, but I knew I needed to show up. On day number 1, it was so hot outside in Hawaii that I threw up violently from heat stroke. I threw up so violently that my diaphragm got stuck open. It was a one-way track for those 10,000 calories to come out. For 2 days, I couldn't figure it out. I called up my chiropractor. He said, just lay down on the ground. I'll have somebody come over, punch you in the chest. It'll close that diaphragm. We have to dislodge it. I said, what? That's stupid. There has to be a different solution. You're kidding. He's like, no. And so I lay down on the ground. I got hit in the chest. We heard my diaphragm close shut. You wake up scared every single day after that. I fight for 18 days. We've made it further than anybody thought we'd make it, 18 consecutive days. It's 106 degrees outside in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I lost concentration for 3 seconds. 3 seconds on my journey. I lose concentration. I was so exhausted, I fell asleep while riding my bike. I crashed, road rash, hip swelling. One of the coolest things we got to do was raise money for a charity. And to do that, we did a 5K run every night. And my daughter committed to run all 50 5Ks through all 50 states. He who has their why to live for can bear almost any how. I didn't know how to get back on my bike and finish that day, but I knew why. Lucy was waiting for me to run her 5K. In life, in your journey right now, if you want to reach the top, put yourself aside and help other people get there. I promise you, you do that selflessly, and there is no chance you don't make it to the top with them. You want to reach success at the highest level, you show up for everybody else on your team. You want to be at the mountaintop, trust me, you do not want to be there alone, so bring other people with you. And it's hard. There's going to be a moment on your journey. There's going to be a moment when you don't think you can take the next step. When every step you take, it feels like a nail gun is being driven through your foot. I'll take it off. But that next step is the most important step on your journey. That's the step that most people are unwilling to take because it hurts. It forces us to grow. It forces us to adapt. Be the less than 1% of the population that is willing to take that next step. Now, we did that 5K every single day. Number 66, she was super fired up. She was like, I'm going to do a 5K with the Iron Cowboy. And she showed up, she put on her number, she started to run. She was quickly overwhelmed and she started to walk. She was the very last person to cross the finish line. So I saw her, I ran up to her, I said, hey, how was that? And she said, that was the hardest thing I have ever done. And what she said next, I'll never forget. She said, can I do it again tomorrow? And I said, what, you want to do the hardest thing you've ever done again tomorrow? And she's like, yes, please. And I said, perfect, all you have to do is show up. And she showed up, and she got on the start line again. Same thing happened, overwhelmed, walking, last person to finish. I ran up to her again and I said, how was it? And she said, nah, that was the hardest thing I have ever done. Please, can I do it again tomorrow? Yeah, you just have to show up. And she showed up, and for 5 days, she showed up and she did the hardest thing she could think of. And on that last day, she was still last. But her head was up and she was proud because she was showing up on her journey. And I went up to her and I gave her a big hug. And I said, Mom, I'm so proud of you. I know how hard that was for you. My mom's hard is 5Ks. Lucy's hard is 55Ks. My hard was 50 Ironmans. Everybody's hard is different. Yet we're all running around judging everybody for the decisions they're making, the choices they're doing. We need to have empathy and compassion as humans because we have no idea what somebody else is going through. We need to reach out our hand at all times and do simple acts of kindness just like Sunny did for Dayton and I. It was so easy for her, but it impacted my journey in a huge way. Every single one of you has that opportunity to reach out your hand. Just smile. You could impact someone's life, save someone's life. That's my simple challenge to you guys today. Have empathy and compassion for everybody around you because we have no idea the shoes that they've been marching on their journey. This is my mom today. She's in her 70s. She's happy. She's healthy. She shows up every single day on her journey. And that's my challenge to you is to continue to show up on your journey. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. That doesn't mean the critics aren't going to come out and they're going to yell at you and be loud. They believe they have an opinion about your journey. I was in the middle of the 50. We made a mistake. It was the day after we had crashed. We were chasing a hurricane storm. We were in the middle of a lightning storm. I had done most of the event. The final few miles, we came inside because it was dangerous. There was high weather advisory warnings. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to finish today. I'm going to get on an elliptical machine. We're going to put our team around us. We're going to finish today. We're going to show up tomorrow, and we're going to fight another day. I woke up the next day to hate, criticism, and intense bullying. They said, your journey's over. You're a quitter. You cannot and should not continue. And I'm like, I'm trying to raise money for charity. Nobody's ever done this before. How do you possibly have an opinion on what I'm doing? How can you possibly know how I'm feeling? And for years, I was hard on myself. I'd get up on stage, I'd do a presentation, I'd tell people the story, we'd motivate them, we'd inspire them, we'd give them hope. And then I'd get off the stage and one person online would make a comment and say, well, you didn't really do it. So I sat down, I did the math. 7,030 miles. 7,030 miles over 7 weeks. And then I took the math on the evening, we spent a few miles on the elliptical. It represented 0.24% of the journey. 0.24%. I almost allowed somebody else's opinion of 0.24% of my journey impact how I navigated and continued. Do not allow somebody else's opinion of your journey impact how you navigated, especially when you're doing something that nobody else in the world has done. I chose to not allow them to impact me. The pandemic hit, my world got shut down like everybody else's, but mine really did. No speaking, no racing, no coaching. I had a full year of calendar clean. I wanted to reset my history. I'm always striving for perfection. I know I can do it better. So I woke up one day and I sat my wife down and I said, you know what? We're going to go all in. We call it the Conquer 100. Earlier this year, starting on March 1st, we attempted 100 consecutive full Ironmans in 100 consecutive days. I know, it sounds stupid. Trust me, I did. We tried it. The purpose of the 50 was to find out how many consecutive Ironmans I could do. I didn't get to find that out because of the chaos, the confusion, the logistics, the fatigue. So I said to myself, okay, if I train, if I assemble a world-class team, if I remove chaos, if I remove confusion, if I put systems in order in place, can we defy logic? And on day number 1, on March 1st of this year, I showed up. And it was 18 degrees outside. But I had made a commitment. I've learned from my past. I said, I will do every inch of all 14,000 of these miles outside, no matter the conditions. I've never been so cold in my life. We biked around Utah Lake every single day. It was all in a controlled environment. There was days where I felt like my hands and feet would not function. I had no blood flow. In fact, I went to bite my a glove off and accidentally bit it in and through my finger. That's how cold it was. Now, I only had 4 months to prepare for this. I had been traveling around the world. I was speaking to 48 different countries. I had gotten a little bit out of shape. I'd gotten a little soft. I was relying on my experience to get me through it. I only had 4 months to prepare for this. I turned 45 during this campaign. The campaign quickly was filled with injury because I had gone from minimal training as best we could to 140 miles a day. And through the first 15 days, I felt broken. I had developed shin splints and a stress fracture in my left shin. I got to the point where I was trying to navigate the marathon, the full 26 miles, and I got to the point where every step I took, that pressure would build and build and build until I passed out. And my team was there to catch me, and they'd bring me back to, and I'd say 3, 2, 1, here we go. And I'd go down the process, that pressure and that pain would build and build and build, and I'd pass out. And that would repeat until I made it all the way to the finish line on day 15. I got home, I had a conversation with my wife, I was in tears. I said, I don't think I can manage that level of pain for 85 more days. And she said, you don't have to. You've done the work today. Trust in your team. Let them take care of you. You have no idea what tomorrow has in store for you. A solution and a miracle could be waiting for you. But you will never find that miracle if you don't show up. I showed up the next day. I suffered. I passed out. We made it to the finish line. I said, Sonny, I don't think I can do 84 more days at that pain. She said, you don't have to. Just let your team take care of you tonight. Face tomorrow when it comes. We have no idea what the miracle is going to be. And we repeated that process until the miracle happened. The world's leading carbon fiber shin brace manufacturer lived on the trail we were running on. And he came out and he said, have you ever heard of carbon-plated shin braces? I said, I have no idea what that is. He said, would you be willing to try them? And I said, absolutely, I'll do anything. And if you can see in this picture, I'm wearing 2 carbon-plated shin braces. What it did is it offloaded my shin bone and allowed it to heal while doing 140 miles a day. If you give your body and your mind and your soul the tools that it needs, it will deliver. If you believe in the process and you keep showing up, it will deliver. The products that you guys, I mean, holy cow, why didn't anybody contact me in March about the product you guys have? I wouldn't have been dealing with this nonsense, right? I'd have been superhuman. I think I could do 200 of these things with your product. Thank you for not calling me. Where are you people? But the reality is this was a miracle. It allowed me to continue. It offloaded my shin. It allowed that bone to heal while doing 140 miles a day. I got to the point where I could start running again. We had made it past 50 days. We'd reset our history. We did 50 consecutive to perfection. And then tragedy struck on day 59. I was in a catastrophic bike accident. I got knocked unconscious. And in that moment, as I was coming back to, I looked back at my life ethos, what I stood for. In my ethos, it says, I finish what I start, and I set the best example I know how for my kids. And in that moment, I asked myself, if I get back on my bike, am I going to die? No. Am I a man of my word, and do I say what I'm going to do? Do I finish what I start? And so I made a decision. I got back up. And I got back on my bike and I finished that ride. And I went to run the marathon that night. And I just found out recently in this accident, I broke my back. I broke my L5. But I made a decision that I was going to continue to show up. We couldn't figure out why I was in so much pain. But I said to myself, I told my kids I would do 100 consecutive. If I ride my bike today, am I going to die? And I continued to fight in pain, and I made it to day 80. This is further than anybody thought we'd make it. And trust me when I say I was broken. I was defeated. And I pulled out my phone to give a little update to social media, just how I was feeling. And I was like, okay, you're going to be positive. You're going to tell people that you feel good. And this is all I could get out.
I'm going to try today.
Isn't it true that sometimes in our life, all we can do is show up and try? And in that moment, that's all I could do, was try. I didn't know how. I knew why. And I knew that I just had to show up and try. I got asked the question a million times, at what point in the day did you know you were going to finish? As soon as I pushed off the wall in the water. As soon as I started my day, I knew I was going to finish. The hardest part in life and on our journey is starting, getting going, overcoming that fear, having that courage to take that first step. Remember earlier I said none of us start as the expert. We all have to learn and grow. You can only learn and grow by showing up when you think you're broken, when you think you're defeated. And we just kept showing up for 20 more days. And the momentum started to carry us. Motion creates emotion. And my team rallied around us, and we made it to day 100. We made it further than anybody thought we would. We did 14,000 miles in 14 weeks. It was an Ironman a day for a quarter of a year. We made it to that last day. I made a promise to myself. I made a commitment. You be patient with yourself. You become an expert. You become invincible. I want you to run on that last day. And so on day 100, I started to run from mile 1. I made it all the way through mile 19. I ran every step. And at mile 19, my body stopped giving me anything back, and I started to collapse. I remember standing back up, regrouping, starting to run again. I looked over to my companion. I said, how fast are we going? And he told me how fast we were going. I said, that's not good enough. We can do better than that. And he said, what, are you kidding me? We're about to set sports endurance history. We're a few miles away from doing something that everybody thought was impossible. Just coast in. And I said, no, I'm going to give it everything I have, every step of the way until I cross that finish line. We're not there yet, and I'm not giving it everything I have. And we made it to the finish line, and this is my family. This is my beautiful wife, Sunny. These are my 5 kids, Lucy, Lily, Daisy, Dolly, and Quinn. Getting their names right is sometimes my greatest accomplishment. But we celebrated that day. We celebrated. We took in that moment. And after everybody went home, we made a decision as a team that we were going to get up and do one more. I couldn't and wouldn't feel right to stand here and tell you that you have one more in you, I promise you, if I didn't do it myself. I wanted to set the ultimate example for my kids. So I got up the next day after everybody had celebrated, after everybody had gone home, after the dust had settled, and I got in the water and I did a 2.4-mile swim one more time. And then I was ready to bike 112 miles all by myself. But I was grateful I didn't have to. My team showed up, and they surrounded me, and we did one more lap, one more victory lap. We laughed, we cried, we told stories. I wanted to finish on my terms. And we got together when we ran 26.2 miles one more time, totaling 140.6 miles in 101 days. Again, this is my family. Thank you. This is my family. We've been on a journey together. This is us at the finish line of the 50 and at the finish line of the 100. And I'm so proud of my team. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to share our humble story with you guys. And I want to share with you guys a final video of our journey as we cross the country back to our home in Utah.
I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming
Utah, we like to say that there's no success outside your home that'll ever compensate for failure inside your home. If you make that a priority, if you try to bring everybody else around you to the top, if you believe and have belief and conviction in your journey, if you show up every single day with relentless pursuit, you cannot lose. Thank you.